It's called why. You don't grow up. You just give up when you quit asking why. Don't you know that you better keep alive, keep alive, keep alive? Well, don't you know that you better keep alive, keep alive? The question, why? Ask why, because it helps to inform us both, you and I. Ask why, because every time you don't, there's a little bit you die. Ask why, because there'll always be more to which it will apply. Ask why, because it can help you focus with your own eye. Ask why, because it can help you understand the place you occupy. Ask why, because there is so much junk they want us to buy. Ask why, because it can help you deal with what makes you cry. Ask why, because police have made another unarmed black man die. Ask why, because it helps to tell the difference between truth and lie. Ask why, because there's so much you won't learn if this you do not try. Ask why, because those that think they run the world want you to be shy. Ask why, because you cannot trust a government that on you spies. Ask why, because without incisive questions, things rigidify. Ask why, because it's the kind of word that you can make your ally. Ask why, because they'll want to go to war and many innocents will die. Ask why, because wonder isn't childish, it's the original high. Ask why, because answers light you up like you're a firefly. Ask why. You don't grow up. You just give up when you quit asking why. Hey, don't you know that you better keep alive, keep alive, keep alive? Well, don't you know that you better keep alive, keep alive? The question, why? Ask why. Yes. Thank you. More than 40 years ago, in the early 70s, I started working on the edge of North Beach at a place called Intersections, which has been a bunch of different places since. But it was actually how I was able to fulfill my alternative service as a conscientious objector. But in that time, I met one of the people that I first met early in North Beach has been given some props today, and I'd also like to add to her praise and thanks Carol Lee Sanchez. Besides getting the opportunity to read at Intersection, because I'm mostly a byproduct of working there, she offered me my very first reading in San Francisco, and I thank her deeply for that, and the opportunity to do some work with poetry in the schools. And I also want to thank, I want to dedicate this to her, and also a couple of other women of the Beat generation. Diane DePrima, who I had the great opportunity to experience in some poetry workshops at Intersection, and who introduced me into many of the faces of the female divine that I had not been acquainted with. And I also want to dedicate it to Lenore Candell, who was, I think, one of the most important and under-recognized voices of the Beat generation. And I'm going to read this poem, which is very long. I seldom risk as much of a reading on one poem, but it was calling me, and hope it'll speak to you.
We have to quit about 6.
Be fast.
That's 12 minutes.
Just keep going.
I need less than 12 minutes. Closer to half of that. And the other, just one thing I want to say, I guess, about this is that I write fairly often about topics in ways that I think are spiritual, but actually naming and addressing a divine entity is not something I normally do. This is called Prayer to the Earth Goddess. You who give us life and embrace us in death. You of the endless cycle of giving and receiving. You who are the life force flowing through all living beings. You, the infinitely bountiful, the infinitely beautiful, who we have disfigured as though your beauty was not good enough for us. You who are forever young, who we have made to appear old and withered. Please forgive and bless us. Be merciful and help save us from ourselves, and help save the many other beings whose survival we threaten. Help us to grow up, mature as a species, and quit being your ungrateful, destructive children. Please rise up and help us. Heal us. Heal yourself. You have enough power to roll the highways up like giant tongues and let the soil laugh in flowers again. You can send pulses of energy surging through city after city across the grid, blowing out their electrical systems like candles on a planet-sized birthday cake. Blowing out the dams holding back immense waves of gleaming night that will come rolling in, carrying dancing stars and darkness, the darkness we are still afraid of. To drown our minds in dreamtime waters of forgetfulness, where we forget our greed for consumer goods, where we forget our culture and remember our dreams, remember our bodies and the holiness of your body. To make the American delusion of infinitely expanding material wealth that has infected the whole world and drives the global economy to suddenly vaporize, leaving only a shadow, like someone walking down the street in Hiroshima on that fateful day. To focus a lightning storm of spiritual energy crackling through the World Wide Web, melting down all of the computers and leaving people connected to each other in the ecosystem by a humming, glowing, mycorrhizal web of shared consciousness. To bring back the flickering shadows of the ghost dancers, renewing their bodies to be followed by the swaying crowds of all the creatures driven into extinction by man, all rising up and living again. Yes, I know your power is as great as this, but I also know that much of what I've written here is only a poetic conceit. Merely my imaginings, and not the way you work, not the way you move. Your magic and mode is that of photosynthesis, flowing through endless loops of green power lines, energizing the gentle and fierce strength of animal life. The continuation of the caterpillar chrysalis butterfly circle, the transformation from rot to fertility, the climaxes of sex, the miracles of birth and death, the changes of the season, and your slower, deeper movement that was the creation of life on this planet and is evolution. But you also move with the rapidity of wildfire, and with global warming going viral, we could soon be lost in a conflagration, first our culture and then our species, going up in smoke like the weedy brush of exotic invasive plants in a redwood forest where the spiritual fire has been suppressed and the old growth trees are licked by flames but still live on. While we live like aliens in your world, standing cynically apart, unwilling to join in your dance. But please, give us another chance. And maybe we could make a comeback, like the native plants underneath those great redwood trees, to our own native intelligence. Remembering you have offered us a relationship with you that embodies motherly love and the orgasmic, ecstatic energy of bliss. And we should have held you close like our mother. And we should have held you close like a lover. And we should have walked in your ways as constantly as the course of the moon. But we have been too enamored with our machines, computers, and television, with our highways, cars, and cities, and what we think we can control. And in our refusal to fully accept your love, we have grown estranged from you and your other species. The changes that we need to make to bring us back into balance with the rest of your creation, we know you cannot make for us. And we have already set in motion wars, plagues, droughts, famines, wildfires. And as we slide toward the edge, like an iceberg on a hot tin roof, and even as I ask for your mercy, I cannot say for sure we deserve it. But like every other species, the seeds of fire inside us that we receive from you keep tenaciously calling us to continue living in your world. Please do not allow us to just burn up. Instead, burn up our arrogant, controlling madness. Burn up our greedy need to own everything. Burn up the straitjackets of our cultural mindsets. Burn up our compulsion to populate every square inch of the planet with humans. Burn up our overpowered egos with our own internal combustion. Reawaken in us our spirit flames with a spark from your molten heart. Help a new kind of hero to grow in us. Let us meet whatever comes with our inner spiritual fires that have in them the dancing power of love, copulation, procreation, and the potential co-creation of a reborn world here, weaving itself together again. And if we are not worthy of anything more, please at least allow a few grimy humans to crawl out of the ashes of the apocalypse and be let back into the dance with you.
Thank you.